Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. We are the Historical Tea and Dance Society. I am Darlene. Whoops, I think I have the wrong speaker view up. I am Darlene Hamilton, and that beautiful piece of music is called Renata. It's a dance and music by Colin Hume, of course. The band is Masquerade. The musicians are Daphne Baker on piano, Graham Nibbs on fiddle, Stephen Thomas, double bass. The CD is Elizabeth and Other Dances, and it's available on Colin's website. We are going to post that information for you. And look in the chat box, which is an important part of this session, both of our sessions. When you open up the chat box, which is down below if you're in Zoom, you will be able to ask questions in the chat, and you will also see the links that we are posting. So you'll be able to have them for reference. And on Zoom, we have Renee Turner monitoring the chat. And on Facebook, we have Larry Hansen monitoring the chat. Good morning, hello. Nice to have you guys with us. And of course, one of the most important parts of our talk is Lindsay Verbal, who's helping me manage everything in the background. She takes care of all the media and couldn't do it without her. So thank you, Lindsay, for being here. Stick around for the after talk. It is really fun part of this show. If you haven't been before, we get to be more one-on-one in the meeting style. The link will post later in the talk today during this hour, so stick around for that. Make sure if you have questions, again on Facebook too. Larry's monitoring those Facebook chat questions, so and they send them through to us and we get them asked. And if we don't get them asked here, we usually have time for them in the after talk. So all right, Colin's bio. Oh my goodness. Sometimes it's easy to make bullet points of somebody's bio, but this one was tough. Colin is a musician, singer, composer, dancer, caller, workshop leader, choreographer, author, and historian. He's been calling for 40 years, American squares, Playford type dances, English country dance, and his own Dances with a Difference. Let me see if I can do that. There, that may look better to some people. It looks better to me. He has published 5 volumes of Dances with a Difference, 3 with corresponding recordings, 2 volumes of American style Squares with a Difference, and 1 New Dances for Old of Playford style dances to existing recorded tunes. His book, Playford with a Difference, contains his own interpretations of a number of country dances published in the Playford years, 17th and 18th century, and both with original wording and discussion. So it's very interesting. He helped run beginner sessions at Cecil Sharp House in London. He calls in England regularly. He's also called in Holland, Germany, Switzerland, Denmark, Canada, and for dance weeks across the United States. I love that he says on his website in his bio, he's too outspoken to be everybody's favorite caller, but will appeal to dancers who appreciate an entertaining and varied dance session. Because of his reputation, I was a little nervous going in to this time with Colin, but I found friendly, caring, helpful, new friend who is very passionate about what he does and what he thinks, and he's not afraid to say so when it comes to the world of dance and other things. So with that, let me please say, welcome, Colin Hume. So happy to have you with us.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello to everybody. I don't know whether you're all here because you're fans of mine or because you just want to find out whether I'm really as bad as everyone says. But we'll find out.
Okay, great. Let's jump right in to the 5 things. And the first one is going to be kind of obvious. You're very well known for this, your website.
Yeah, I certainly am. So, okay, when I started it, I didn't know it was going to be a big thing. The first available archive I could see of it was from January 2001, and it was on a free hosting thing. And the first one after I'd actually got colinhume.com, the domain, was in 2002. By then I had 32 pages about dance technique, simply copied from the notes that I used at workshops. And then I started adding dances. By December 2004, I had 2 by me and 3 by other people. And I wanted people to be able to print out the music. And I then discovered ABC notation, which is really great because it's simple to read and write. Just ordinary keyboard, you don't need any fancy fonts or anything. And it's very small files because they're just text. And there are programs that will create musical notation for people to print off and MIDI files for people to listen to and do other things like transposing. And they're all free. And they're all there on my server. So the users don't have to buy and install any software such as Music Master or Sibelius or Finale. And I've got a file, a public file containing nearly 1,000 tunes, and a private one, which you can't see, containing over 200 copyright tunes.
Wow.
I know that does sound a lot, but I've been adding to them over the years.
Wow,
I use a couple of, go on, yep.
That sounds amazing. And you just created something for your website that we're going to show.
Yeah, I decided that it was a good idea to have a description of the website. And I know if I sit here and try and type the keys and show you, I will totally mess it up. So I have a video instead.
So Lindsay, let's go ahead and watch that.
Here's an 8-minute tour around my website as it stands in July 2020. Most people...
Hang on a second. Are we having problems with that? I'm not seeing it.
I can see it.
Oh, great. Okay. I'm seeing something different. Go ahead.
I don't know about the rest of the world, but I can see it.
Just wanted to make sure it was running okay.
On the top that cuts down the available space even more. So the first thing I do is press function key F11, which gets me to full screen. And yes, you can go back to that whenever you want.
There we go.
The menu across the top is there on almost every page. Some of the pages have a sub-menu, so I hope you won't get too lost. You might be interested in my computer programming or my writing of scripts and musicals, but chances are you're interested in my dance stuff. So where do you start? One place is the search box on the home page. Suppose I type in Sharon Green and press enter. You get 2 links which contain the entire phrase, and then a number of links which contain part of it, like Green, or later on there may be another Sharon. If, for instance, I'm interested in a greenhouse, I click there, and this is a page called Our House, and I'm sure if you do a search, somewhere down there you'll find the word greenhouse. But suppose you're a caller looking for the instructions and music for a dance. Then naturally you go to the instructions and music item. We have a set of formations across the top. So if you know what the formation is, that's probably a good place to start. But suppose you just remember that it's called something hunt. Then you put in the word hunt in the first box and press enter. And there's 2 choices, and you think, Wakefield Hunt, that's the one I want. So you'll usually see the source, the date, the composer, the person who wrote the music, the formation, and the instructions. Sometimes you get a lot more. If it's one of my interpretations or reconstructions, you get a lot of information about how I came up with my version and how it differs from other people's. You'll also...
wow. That's pretty cool. So you actually give a lot of other commentary on the dances. Gosh, that's so great.
Well, I think that's important. Most people who do reconstructions just say, here it is. and you think, is that really how they danced it in 1700? And chances are it wasn't. And I
Wow.
can understand that. I'm not saying they shouldn't do that, but at least I explain what I think it should be, and then maybe what I've done to make it more acceptable to dancers in the 21st century.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Sorry for interrupting. Keep going. I might interrupt now and then.
People.
Thanks, Lindsay.
You'll also see three buttons usually against the title. First one with the treble clef is for playing or seeing the music. Second one with the printer is for printing out just this dance. And the third one with the up arrow takes you to the top of the page, because some of my pages are quite tall, quite long, and tablets, smartphones and Apple Macs don't have a home key. So if we click the music button, again, don't be intimidated by all the options. Bands in the States like the chords above. Bands in England like the chords below, so I'll click that. And some bands in England are getting a bit old, so I'll click the bigger, which means we have bigger notes and only 4 bars, 4 measures per line instead of 8. Now you could go to print, which is actually producing a PDF that goes to whatever program on your computer is set up to play PDF files or to display PDF files. And from there you can print it and send it off to a band. But we're not going to do that. Let's go back to the home and to the instructions of music. Suppose you're a musician and you're looking for a tune called Something Waltz. Well, you put the word waltz in the second search box, press enter.
Oops, did we freeze?
We did.
Oh,
Nothing wrong with my
what
video.
happened? Well, yeah, this is an amazing website. Thank you. And you said that you were going to post that on your website, or is it up now?
Yes, it is. On the home page, there's a help button at the top. And if you click on that, you go to a help screen, which tells you various things. And it now has a button at the bottom that plays that very video, and it doesn't freeze. So
Oh, that's great.
you can see it at any time.
Yeah. It was really interesting that you put sheet music available. Is there any problem with copyright laws, or are these older, out of copyright tunes, or?
Oh, all the ones that I put there are either they're out of copyright or the person who wrote it will not mind. For instance, all of Charles Bolton's tunes are now available on the CDSS website. And so there's no reason why I shouldn't have some of those there.
Right.
And there's all of mine, and probably other people who have them on their websites, and I know they wouldn't object to me putting them there.
That's very cool. And I also know one of the things that when we were discussing throughout the week about this and the video, there's an amazing MIDI program attached to your to this system, and I was just so stunned at how good it does sound. I mean, I kept thinking in a pinch, if we were practicing for a ball and we really needed something that wasn't recorded, we might be able to get it there.
Yeah, well, the thing about MIDI, and it says this in the video, is that it has a bad name. People say, oh, MIDI sounds awful. But that's actually not the fault of MIDI, because MIDI isn't a system for playing music. It's a system for sending commands to a synthesizer or whatever. And it actually says, play this note at this volume on this instrument.
Wow.
And what the instrument sounds like isn't a function of MIDI. It's a function of a thing called a sound bank font.
Wow.
And the one that comes with Windows is really not very good at all. But I downloaded a free one, which is much better, and that's what I use. And yes, I must put somewhere on my website a link to that so that people know that they can do that. And it wasn't that difficult, but most people would never think of doing it. And yeah, it does sound perfectly good to me.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I have to also say I was really surprised because you're so open about, here's my house, you know, here's where you can come and visit. Have you ever been surprised?
Well, no, I haven't. But yeah, various people have said, Colin, you've got that page showing your beautiful house and garden, and then you've got your bookings page telling us when you're not going to be there. So now
Yeah.
on the bookings page, it says, don't expect to dance with Renata because she doesn't often dance. She stays at home with her cats. So I hope that'll persuade the burglars not to come in. But no, we haven't actually had anyone who just turned up. We've had various people from the States and other places who emailed and said, we're going to be in England. And I said, come around, and always happy to see people, dancers from around the world. Yeah, but usually with some notice in advance.
That's great. Well, let's see. How about we had a really interesting question, and I don't know if she's out in the audience, and I did not ask Lindsay to go and look for her, but maybe Lindsay, do you want to read that question, and then because this is something pertaining to the website, and since we missed that last part of the video,
Sure.
or encapsulate it.
Yes. So the
Sorry.
no, I'm just trying to think of a way to summarize this long question. I would say we've talked a lot about the dance instruction term gypsy, and there's a movement to move away from that. There are also people who really like that term. Some places it's considered offensive, some places it's considered not offensive. Do you have thoughts on that, or a place on your website where people could go to learn more about that?
No, I don't, and maybe I should. This is not an issue in England, but we do pick up these politically correct things from the States, so I suspect it will come. Gypsies in England have no objection to being called gypsies. I suspect a lot of this is from non-gypsies who think, oh dear, we shouldn't call them that. And I hit this in Canada. I was told when I was calling in Toronto, don't use the word gypsy. And I was calling tango in Toronto, which is a very difficult dance with a lot of gypsies in it. And I just couldn't do it. Eventually I gave up and said, are there any gypsies here who object to this? And there weren't. So I don't know where it comes from. You hear it in Morris. There's a whole gyp and a half gyp. And I imagine that Cecil Sharp used that word because it was what the dancers were using. But there is no evidence that it comes from gypsy. And that's about all I know. Sorry.
Well, I'm not sure if I should say this or not, but I think you've written so much. There actually is a link to a small article on gypsy, and that we found on your website. So it's not the whole discussion about all the ins and outs and whys and wherefores, but the point was you also have all this fabulous writing on your website where people can find out more about this historical documentation. We're going to post a link to the smaller article. It's not a big discussion like you were saying, but there is.
I don't think I've ever read it.
I found it.
Well, then it must be there.
Yeah. So Renee and Larry are going to post that just because I know a lot of people. It's a button word around here. So yeah. And Colin, you have another website too you were going to mention.
Oh yeah, there's another one which is called barndances.org.uk, which was written by a man called Thomas Green, who helped run the Cambridge Contra group. This is the real Cambridge, not one of these foreign ones, you understand, where I dance and call and play. He's now up in York in the north, and he's lost interest or involvement in dance. He was looking for someone to take it over, so I took it over. I rewrote it. It doesn't look very different as far as the users are concerned, but it's much simpler inside. And I added some extra dances. This is the dance repertoire that callers call at a barn dance or a one-night stand. There are far more people interested in that than interested in all the complicated stuff on my main website. And it's a popular site.
Yeah.
And both of these websites have now been taken over by CDSS because it's a fair bet that CDSS are going to last longer than I am. So I spoke to Katie German we had a long discussion about my main website, and she said, yes, we would love to take it over. And then later on, I also passed across the other two. So they're both going to be there for the foreseeable future. And I know they don't fit the American definition of English, but they are just as English as Indian Queen and Nonsuch.
I love that you're doing that. I love that you think to the future and know that, you know, you're not always going to be wanting to or able to keep that website up to date. So thank you for doing that. Lindsay,
Okay.
I think we're going to hand it over to you for a moment.
Excellent. Well, we have a Q&A question from Paul Ross, who is in our panelist pool. And Paul, if you'd like, you can turn on your mic, and if you have a camera, you can turn that on and ask away.
Hello, Colin.
Hi, Paul.
It's very nice to hear you and see you. So
Thank you.
I have a question regarding the guidelines, the permission guidelines that you would like us to follow. When I say us, I mean those of us who like to program your dances. Are you expecting us to, obviously to acknowledge it, of course, but do you want written permission before we do this? What generally would satisfy you as a choreographer and tunesmith?
Oh, no, I'm just satisfied if you call my dances and preferably say that they're by me. No, anyone who writes dances and tunes does it because they want them to be performed. And I don't believe anyone goes into this to make their fortune, and I'm sure you don't make your fortune at it any more than I do. So I'm a great believer in spreading these things around. No, go ahead and call them. That's what they're for.
Great. Thank you, Colin.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
That was great. All right. We do have a few other questions, but if you all can come back to the after chat or wait till the end, we're going to get to them because there's going to be a lot of questions today, I'm sure. And we're going to show a few more pictures and that sort of thing. So whatever we don't get to in here, we're showing up there. I'm going to move you into thing number 2, Colin.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Getting dancers to dance better.
Okay, so I think there are 2 parts to this. Getting people to move with style, to fit the moves to the music, and getting them to actually dance rather than walk. And I know this is harder work in the States than it is in England. There's a lot of awful stuff on YouTube. There's dancers plodding about with no conception of fitting it to the music. And the callers and organisers obviously don't consider that important, or they wouldn't upload these awful videos. I remember being at a workshop in England that Bruce Hamilton was running for callers, and he asked us why we danced, and we gave all sorts of answers. And then he said, that's what I'm going to say. There are so many reasons for dancing, so you need to appeal to people in all sorts of ways. And this is true. One of them is just social contact. I've heard that some psychotherapists say to their clients, why don't you try folk dancing? The people are very friendly, they're forgiving, you don't need to know what you're doing or be any good at it. And there's certainly been times I've been dancing at Cecil Sharp House and thought, bet he was sent by a psychotherapist. So that's one reason. Another is just the exercise. Even if you just walk the dances, there may be more exercise than you get the rest of the time. And of course, if you dance Contra, that is energetic, that is a workout. And then to meet members of the opposite sex or the same sex. I know you have gender in the States, we have sex in England. And there was an occasion I was in Cecil Sharp House. Just in case anyone don't know, Cecil Sharp House is in central London. It's the headquarters of the English Folk Dance and Song Society. It has a really good dance hall. And I was talking to this group of women, and a man walked in, and one of them said, oh, watch out for him, he's after all the women. And I said, well, I'm after all the women too. And they said, yes, Colin, but at least you can dance. And that really was the point. I was there to dance. If I met women there, that was a bonus, but I wasn't just coming there for that reason. So that's another reason why people dance. In the States particularly, people dance because they love the music. And one main reason is that people enjoy the beauty of the dance, often combined with the beauty of the music. And I think they are the ones who want to do it well. They will welcome criticism. Some of them just don't know what they're doing wrong. They don't understand the timing, how many steps you take. And Hugh Stewart from Cambridge has this interesting phrase, mid-course correction. In other words, if you're dancing a Hay for 3 or a Morris Hay or whatever, you should know that halfway through the music, you should be halfway through the figure. So if you started at the top, at the end of 4 bars, 4 measures, you should be at the other end. And if you're aware of that, then you can slow down or speed up and get there at the right time. But a lot of people just have never been told about that. You need to understand the pattern, and some people just know their path. I go from here to there, then I cross over with someone, then I go around there. And really, to dance well, you need to understand the whole pattern. Callers are usually better at that because they have to know the whole shape of the thing. People need to know what style is required. Some dances need a lively style. Some of them need a sedate style. And in my opinion, you want to be stylish, but not artificial, because there are other YouTube videos where people are moving smoothly in time with the music. It's all smooth and flowing, but they take it so seriously. This is English country dance. And to me, it looks affected. And I'm sure they don't think it's affected. And maybe you wouldn't. But Cecil Sharp quoted a lady of distinction as saying, the characteristic of an English country dance is that of gay simplicity. The steps should be few and easy, and the corresponding motions of the arms and body unaffected, modest and graceful. So to my mind, unaffected is one of the words. And I've seen that in various dancing master books that I've been reading recently, because I've just produced a large web page on what is a dancing master. I've been working solidly on that for some time.
Colin, let me stop you here. We're gonna bring up a question.
Okay.
I think it's key to or important to what we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Olivia, if you'd like, go ahead and unmute and.
Oh dear, it's not Olivia Barry, is it?
Hi, Colin.
Hi, Olivia.
How are you doing?
Oh, so far so good.
All right, so I promised to ask you a difficult question.
You did.
This one's not too difficult, but I'm interested in hearing more about, of course, dancing well. We've had extensive conversations about it, but I'm wondering about some of the specific people that maybe cultivated your understanding of dancing well. So who are some specific individuals that you either saw or have danced with that have kind of instilled that desire in you to teach other dancers to dance well?
Oh dear. That's a difficult one. Because a lot of callers, good callers in England, don't give any style points. The top Playford caller when I started dancing, and for many years, was John Lagden. And I don't think he actually taught style. He was a really good caller at explaining the dances. He knew where everyone should be, but I don't think he talked about style. Betty Chater, who lived in Hertfordshire, which is where I'm now living, was a real dance technique teacher and a beautiful dancer. The way she moved, it was so graceful and unaffected that you actually thought, wow, I wish I could do that. And she would try and teach people, and she was very positive about it. She didn't criticize people. She just said, well, I'm sure you could do this better. And we all wanted to do it better just for Betty. So she was certainly a role model, but I'm really not sure who else there was. But I certainly went to various dance technique workshops. And I know on one occasion I said to Betty Chater, you know, I feel a real fraud going out in front of these people and teaching them how to dance well. And she immediately said, oh, so do I. And I felt so much better when she said that. So that's not really much of an answer, Olivia, but it's the best I can come up with.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Olivia.
I think we have a video of a little bit about what you're talking about. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this video we're going to watch, Colin?
Is that the one of Once a Night?
It is.
Yeah, I run a weekend once a year in November, which is my favorite weekend of the year because they're almost all good dancers. The few who aren't are carried along by the others. And so I can call pretty well anything. They like the complicated stuff, but they also like dancing well. And I was doing a session on Zesty Playford. And I told them what I wanted. I wanted them to dance with energy and enthusiasm. And they did. And actually at the end of this, I said, that was really good. I wish I had a video of that to put on YouTube because all these American videos are just walking. And Sue Carter came up to me afterwards and said, actually, I was videoing that. And I've now got a clip of her video. And these people are not young, but they dance with energy and enthusiasm. And I'm really pleased to be able to show it to you. Okay, Lindsay, hit me with it. Go! Okay, and that's not a performance group. These are just dancers. And you look down the hall and they're all dancing it with energy. And I don't think it's because they're terrified of me or they wouldn't come back year after year. It's because they are happy to do it. Part of it is just an attitude. A lot of people say, oh, I'm too old to do that. And yeah, of course, I don't want to force people to do a slip circle if they're going to break their hip or whatever. I've got to be sensible about it. But a lot of people are not that way. They just think, oh no, I couldn't do that. And actually, if they do, they're really pleased with themselves. And they think, oh, didn't know I could still do that. I've seen people in their 40s who've just got this attitude of, oh no, I couldn't do that. And you think, well, suppose you watched River Dance and they decided to walk it because it was a bit of an effort. You'd feel cheated. Or Swan Lake. Or suppose the Wimbledon tennis, the men's finals, and they said, well, it's really hot today, so we're going to walk it. No. And even though you're not dancing to an audience, I think the same thing still applies. You get out of it what you put into it. If you just plod through the whole evening, you're likely to go home and think, well, that was a not very exciting evening, was it? Whose problem is that?
Great attitude. I like it.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move into thing number 3.
Okay.
Getting callers to call better.
Yeah, this is also controversial because if there's no one to teach the dancers how to dance better, then what chance have they got? When the lockdown started, I offered a free callers workshop to The Round, which is the group in Cambridge. It's nominally a student group, but it isn't really. And I dance, call, play there regularly. And they advertised it to another club in Cambridgeshire. And I had no takers. And some years ago at a local club near where I live, they had a lot of bad callers. And they sent out a thing saying, do you think we should have 2 callers per evening, doing half an evening each, which means they get more opportunities to call, or 1 caller per evening, which means fewer opportunities, but they get a longer spell. And I said, well, actually, you could do with a callers workshop. I would run one to get the callers to call better. And I didn't even get a reply. Not just no thank you, no reply. A lot of people, I think, would say, I don't need Colin Hume telling me what I'm doing wrong. I've been calling for years. And the trouble is, there's no incentive to improve. The clubs need the callers, so they never criticize them. I've heard of clubs who won't announce who's going to be the caller next week, because if they did, nobody would turn up.
So what do you think makes a good caller? You have a lot of opinions and we want to hear them.
I do. Well, there's the basic things like a clear explanation, watching people in the walkthrough, calling ahead of the music, the technical stuff. But in some ways, more important is the caller's attitude. He or she sets the tone of the evening. Is it going to be easy, challenging, fun, boring, varied, interesting? And I hope I come across with an attitude of, this is going to be good. You're going to enjoy this. You're going to do it well. Okay, I may be telling people later on that, no, not like this. I want it done like that. But I still hope I come across with the attitude of, you can do this and you're going to enjoy it. And I feel that if folks leave feeling blasé at the end, it's the fault of the caller. Another thing is confidence. You've got to be able to have the confidence. And the only way you're going to get the confidence to be a caller is by getting out there and doing it. And this is one great thing at the round. They're always encouraging new people to have a go. So we have 2 callers per evening, an hour each, well, a bit less because it's a tea break. And often one of the callers will say, if anyone, one of the dancers, wants to call one dance in the evening, you're welcome to do it in my spot. And people will do this. And they may be nervous, they may not be very good, but it's a good, friendly environment. And if they want a critique, they can certainly get it. Usually they don't. Just standing there with the microphone, clutching the card and saying, first man set to the second woman and turn single is enough. And everyone applauds them at the end. And then maybe they'll get better. Okay, what else can I tell you, Darlene?
Oh, I was muted. Sorry. I think a lot of communities are struggling to find new callers. And I know you talked about opportunities you can give them, but do you think there's something that we can, say to dancers that might encourage them to consider trying calling?
Well, it depends on the dancer. My wife, Renata, is a beautiful dancer. She's a much more stylish dancer than I am, just naturally, but she would hate to be a caller. She wouldn't want to stand up there and tell people what to do. She's fine telling people how to improve their garden because she's a professional gardener. She can do that, but being in front of a crowd, no, she'd go to pieces. And a lot of dancers are like that. And there are others who say, I don't want to call, I love dancing. I don't want to be up there. I want to be down there dancing. So you've got to take a subset. And of that subset, some of them might enjoy it. They might enjoy it for the wrong reason. Oh, it's great to be a caller because you get up there on stage, you tell everyone to do, and at the end they applaud you. That's not really what it's all about. But I know it's an incentive to some people. But okay, I'm not answering your question. How do you encourage dancers to call? I think mainly what I've just said, by making it a friendly environment, saying, look, these are all your friends. You've been dancing with them for some years. They're not going to tear you to pieces. They want new callers. Have a go. And if you don't want any feedback, you don't have to have it. And actually, I always say this is a caller's workshop. If you don't want any feedback, tell me so. And at the end, I'll just say, thank you very much, Joe Smith. And everyone applauds. But if you want feedback, I will tell you what I think you did well and what I think you did badly. And that's an important part of feedback. Wendy Crouch was really good at that. She would always start by saying a couple of positive things about what the people did. And Tony Parks is very good at that as well. And then get on to, well, if you'd done this, it would have been better. Not, that was terrible. Why on earth did you say that? But if you said so-and-so, then people would have found it easier to do it. Bruce Hamilton is the great man about giving feedback. And I'm sure you all know about him.
Yeah.
So if you've got people in the club who are good at doing that, maybe they should take on that job. But the club members generally just need to be positive and say, it's really great that you had a go at calling the dance. And it's probably a dance that they all know. Doesn't matter. No matter how often you practiced, getting up there and doing it in front of the crowd is different. It's the same with being in a performance group. You can practice for months, but as soon as you're there in front of an audience, it's all different, and some people go to pieces. So a lot of encouragement and positive criticism if they want it. Otherwise, just keep on and say, well, that was good. We thought that was okay. Would you like to try it again in a couple of months' time? Don't push them too hard. and maybe they'll come round.
Thank you. That was a great answer. And also, I know that, when I had asked you, I said everybody always wants that one piece of advice, and you mentioned the book, and we're going to show a picture of it.
Oh yes, so I did. Lucky we had a practice, because I've forgotten all these things. Okay, show us the picture. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This is a classic. The title is a cliche. Why is it a cliche? Because it's such a great book. It's very readable. Don't go into it thinking, oh, this is an old book. It's talking about people who died years ago. Doesn't matter. He's talking about human nature, and that hasn't changed. He will give you lots of ways in which to influence people. And I seriously believe if you as a caller buy a copy of this book and read it through and think, how can I apply this to my calling? You will find lots of good ideas. One of them that I use, for instance, is throw down a challenge. So sometime in a dance or a workshop, but even in an evening dance, I will say, you can do it better than that. Sometimes I will say, that was terrible. And they know I say this sort of thing, so they don't all burst into tears. In the States, they might, but in England, they're stronger stuff. That was terrible. I know you can do it better than that. Come on, let's do it again. And this time I want you to move. I want you to fit it to the music. And they do. Okay, you don't want to throw down a challenge every dance, but just occasionally, people will live up to your expectations, or they live down to them. If you think, oh, this lot aren't much good, they will prove you right. Yes, darling. You're going to say, I'm running out of time, aren't you?
Well, boy, we could do many hours with Colin Hume. And I will say that I was in a session when you taught at Boston ECD, and you did exactly that. And we did do better. It was great. I loved it. So let's move into thing number 4. Writing and reconstructing dances. Big part of your life.
Yeah. And the first question in writing a dance is, why would you write a new dance? There are thousands and thousands of dances. You need to think of a good reason. Now, the good reason may be it's your friend's birthday. Okay, that's a perfectly good reason. But if you want it to be widely known, then maybe you need another reason. First of all, you need to think what style, what formation, what music. In the States, you have these brick walls. So if you're an English caller or a dancer, it's going to be an English style dance. It's probably going to be duple minor with a triple minor tune in a minor key. Okay, you can do that, fine. But at least you need to start by deciding what formation you want. I might say, I'd like to write a 4-couple dance to a jig, whatever. And then it needs something different. To be a good dance, I think it needs to have something different, something interesting and memorable. You can write a dance that says, first corner, set and turn single, 2-hand turn. Second corners do the same. That's a great first half, but it was done in Indian Queen in 1701. But if you replace the 2-hand turn by a gypsy right, 1.5, you've got something new because the people have changed places. And then that could be a good dance. And you're still too late. I've already done that in a dance called La Tambourine.
All right, let's talk about, for a moment, probably your most famous dance here in the States, Elizabeth, because I've heard rumors that, it's so famous here, but you're like, yeah. So tell us about Elizabeth.
Oh, no, I'm certainly not dismissing it. The fact is, it's not nearly so well known in England as it is in the States. Well, a woman called Elizabeth Elton phoned me up and said, I'm 70. Am I too old to come to your beginners group? And I said, no, of course you aren't. We take everyone, come along. And she was great. She really enjoyed it. This was later on, not that soon after, there was all this thing about closing Cecil Sharp House, and we were raising money to try and keep it going. We had a 12-hour dance marathon. She danced every dance, including the final polka. And then a year or so later, she booked me to call her 75th birthday dance at Cecil Sharp House. And I thought, I must write a dance for her. So I wrote a dance in triple time, and I got a group of probably 6 of us to demonstrate it. And the thing is, it wasn't supposed to be a waltz. It was triple time. In fact, one of the women in the demonstration group didn't like waltzes. But when I published it in CDSS News, I didn't say that. And the tune is written in 3/4 time, and I put the wrong metronome marking on it. So everyone in the States thinks it's a waltz, and I think, no, it isn't.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
um, okay, well, let's see.
Oh, and I have to say, as an American dance, it ticks all the boxes. It's long waist duple minor, it's in triple time. Not sure if it's in a minor key. It has got a nice tune and it flows well. So it wasn't made for the American market, but it succeeded because it's exactly what the Americans think of as a really typical English dance.
Thank you. So Reconstruction, you do a lot of it, you've done a lot of it, and others have done a lot of it. Why is Reconstruction important? Some of our people are big believers, and other people might be like, I don't care so much. Tell us more about that. And is there still a need for it? Are there still untapped dances out there and such?
Oh, yes, thousands of them. But most of them aren't worth doing. Is there a need for Reconstruction? Well, and you're right, a lot of people don't care whether it's John Playford's 1651 or Gary Rudman 2021. They just think, is it a good dance? Do I enjoy it? And that's fine. I'm not saying everyone should be interested in all the background, but I am interested in the history, in where the Gary Rudman dances come from. And Gary is interested in that because when he writes a dance, it's not in isolation. He's drawing on the past few centuries. So I think it's important. It's certainly necessary because if you read the original Playford book, he describes it as plain and simple instructions. No, they're not. They're very condensed. They're written in a very technical style, which we don't know what it means now. People say, John Playford says sides all, and everyone knew what he meant. And now we discuss siding for hours. So there is a need for someone to look at the dance and work out what it means. But then there's the second thing of who are you doing the reconstruction for? Is it for a historical dance group who want to do it exactly the way it was danced in 1651 or 1801 or whatever? Or is it for a modern English country dance group who want something that they will enjoy at a Saturday night dance? And you come up with two very different answers.
Thank you. What do you think? I know you touched on this a little bit. This is the opposite question, but a lot of people are wondering, what do you think makes a bad dance? And by the way, for those of you out there, we are going to get to more questions in the after talk. So.
Okay, a bad dance. Well, a lot of standard stuff. Your typical contra, modern contra stance, balance and swing your neighbor, circle left 3/4, swing your partner. You're halfway through the dance, you've said nothing yet. So, just as I said, a good dance needs something interesting in it. A bad dance, I could just write one, just like that. And it would work, you would progress, but it wouldn't be worth doing. Secondly, when the flow is all wrong. If you've got a contra with a right-hand star, a left-hand star, and then a lady's chain, that was written by a man. Because the left-hand star going into the ladies' chain is really awkward for the ladies. It's a complete change of direction and change of hands. And then not fitting the music properly. Obviously, it's got to be the right number of measures, but some contra callers just list a series of moves. Balance and swing your neighbor, ladies' chain across, hey for 4. And I think, wait a minute, that hey for 4 is the second half of A1, A2, and the first half of B1. That may fit the timing of the music, but it really doesn't fit the music. Whereas going back to Indian Queen, that fits the music. A1 is first corner set and turn single and two-hand turn. Then A2 is the same music and the second corners do the same thing. And then you change the B music and you do something quite different. So, okay, I'm talking about good and bad dances, but of course one is the mirror image of the other. If you write a good dance, then it won't be a bad dance. If you write a bad dance, it might be redeemed by a good tune, but it'll never make it a great dance.
Yeah. Lindsay, you're going to ask a question from someone who wrote in, right?
Yes, Jenny Beer wrote in with a question, and she's not here right now, but it's a good
Well, that's disgraceful.
It is a shame, isn't it? But
it's a good question.
Sleep, who knows? So the question is, Colin, you're deeply attentive to history, but also eager to write and promote new dances. What's the right role for each in your approach to teaching and learning dance sessions?
Oh. Well, thank you, Jenny. It's a good thing you're not here for me to be rude to you. It depends on what kind of a session. If I'm doing an evening dance, I do a mix. And when I say a mix, I mean I will start with a Playford style dance, and then I'll say, stay there, we'll do a contra. And no one thinks that's unusual in England, but that's getting on to one of the other topics. In a style workshop, again, probably a mix of old and new. Because if you're teaching how to do a hey for three, there may be a good old dance which really shows that, but there may be a good new dance that really shows that. If I'm doing a workshop on country dance minuet, then definitely I will do dances of that period, not one that I've written to illustrate something about the minuet step. Obviously, if I'm doing a session on Playford dances or dances from Jane Austen's period, I will do the real thing. And some people don't. No, I won't mention names, but I know a caller in England who would do a session of Zesty Playford, and he would do my dance, Oxford Circus. I've seen him do this more than once. It's a Playford style dance, but it's not a Playford dance. And if I'm actually doing Zesty Playford, I would do genuine Playford. And if I'm doing a Playford ball, I would do genuine Playford. Now, I might include some from John Young, who took over the dancing master after John and Henry Playford's time. But I will do the real thing because there is such variety in the genuine dances from the dancing master. I don't feel any need to throw in some of mine or Gary's or Fried Herman's. I think, no, it's a Playford ball. Let's do the real thing. But I know I'm very unusual in that.
Sounds great. Thank you. We're going to move on to thing 5. Again, there's a lot of questions. That's why you should come to the after talk. Because there's so much to talk about and a lot of conversation going on. All right, yeah. Thing 5. I had to write an extra large card for this one. Breaking down the barriers in America between English, Contra, Square, and Scottish. And you did start touching on that.
Yes, I did. And it is something I feel strongly about. First thing to point out is they all come from English. I know this would horrify some contra dancers. They wouldn't want to hear this, but it's the truth. And the barriers are fairly recent. Ted Sonella at the Scout House in Concord in Massachusetts for years and years did a regular dance. I think it was a Saturday evening dance. And he would do one Playford, or one English rather, one Contra, one International, one English, one Contra, International, and no one thought that was a strange thing, and they all loved it. And now it's all separate camps. The Contra dancers think that, the English dances are all slow and boring and there's no swings. And the English dancers think, the Contra dancers are a bunch of hooligans, I wouldn't want to dance with them. And this is a real pity, because I enjoy dancing and calling both of those, and squares. And even the contra dancers don't want to do squares. I think it's a real pity, and I try and do my bit to break down the barriers in the States. It doesn't always work. There's at least 2 contra dancers who will never book me again because I called squares. And first of all, I want to point out to the English dancers and to the contra dancers that not all English is slow and gentle. And I like some of the English traditional dances. But again, I think it's attitude that counts so much. And Dale Carnegie talks a lot about this. If the dancers come in with the attitude of, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to enjoy this, then I've lost them. I haven't got a chance. And if I go in with an attitude of, you really should try this, it's good for you, I've lost them. So I've got to try and be positive and encouraging. And the fact is, there is a lot of prejudice. And it's very difficult. Well, it's impossible for me to break it down just coming down from England to do one dance with a particular group. But if the callers there are willing to give it a try, then I think there's a chance that people will realize that, oh yeah, some of these contras are quite fun. And the contra dancers might think, oh yeah, some of these English dances are quite fun. I know that, do stop me, yeah, go on.
Sorry.
No. I said you have to stop me because I just talk and talk. It's one of the skills of being a caller. It just goes on and on.
But we love it. It's hard to it's hard to stop people because it is fascinating and interesting, and we're fans, and we love it. So now's when Renee and Larry, if they haven't already, are going to post the After Talk link. You do have to register. It just takes a moment to register. Come into the After Talk. We'll be addressing all these different questions that haven't gotten addressed yet. I'm going to do the last bits of our web chat series. Colin, do you have a favorite dance, or maybe more than one?
No, I don't think I do have a favorite dance. I think part of it is who I'm dancing with rather than the dance. I remember again at the Round in Cambridge, dancing Well Hall with a student called Rachel who'd been dancing from birth. Her parents were both dancers. In fact, they met at the Round in Cambridge, and it was stunning because we were both dancing it to the music, and it was a really great experience, and I think she felt the same. So it's not necessarily the dance. And I'm sorry if that's not a good answer, but that's all I can say.
That's a good answer, because I know I understand that answer. So it's good for me. Hope it's good for all of you out there. All right. Well, thank you so much, Colin, for coming on our web chat series. Really appreciate it. It's been a great week. I've really enjoyed spending time with you. And Colin posted all of the web chats on his website. It's under the COVID page. So if you missed something and you want to catch it, that's where you can find it. And we're so appreciative of that. So thank you so much for that.
Okay, yeah, if you go to my homepage, there's a link there that says everyone has a COVID page. Here's mine. Just click on that and you'll see various links to, well, things like Sharon Green doing one-person dances, but also, as Darlene says, the whole lot of the web chats, and you can watch them at your leisure.
And this one too, I imagine, soon.
Oh, sure. Just
I want to thank our Five Things team, Lindsay Verbal, running all the media, and I want to thank Renee Turner here on Zoom and Larry Hansen on Facebook for helping. We do have things that we want to deal with, talk about, lots of your questions in the After Talk. So please join us. It starts up about 2 minutes after this program ends. Coming up next week.
Oh. I would like to say before you carry on, because I can interrupt you just like you interrupt me.
Yes, you can.
I think Darlene and Lindsay are doing a fantastic job. Unless you have run one of these things, you have no idea how much work it is. I've put in a lot of work, and I've only done the one. They're doing one a week plus one a month, and they are so professional, and I'm really grateful to them for doing it.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you. Coming up next week, we have a special evening. We're trying something different. We've got this spot and we've got community, and we thought we'd do a special focused evening on something that's been talked about for years, and let's see if we can bring a bigger community together to talk about it. Global terminology and positional calling. It's with Brooke Friendly leading the discussion, leading the web chat, first the web chat and then the after talk with discussion. And the registration is open, and Larry and Renee are posting links for that. And then coming July 25th, this is not our event. This is Scissortail Traditional Dance Society in Oklahoma. There's a caller's workshop with Colin Hume. Yay! Again, it's not our event. We are posting a link. If you have questions, ask them. So it's with Louise Siddons and her group. So we're looking forward to doing that. Before we post the donation page and before we do our exit music, I think we have a little video, something else you might not have known about Colin. I love that. Also a player. All right.
Well, yeah, and that was totally unrehearsed. The band is called Knotted Chord, and I occasionally play with them. Phil and Fran have been playing together for years. Phil just said to me, G major, and we were off. I didn't know anyone was videoing it. And I recognized the tune, but I didn't know what it was called because I'm a caller mainly. Bands play these tunes for me. At the end, I turned to Phil and said, what was that? But
that's great.
when I saw the video, I thought, oh yeah, I did better there than I expected.
That was great. I'm glad we had it to play. So our exit music is also another great dance and music by Colin Hume. The tune is Helena. And the band is the Rampions. The musicians are Gil Howell, Martin Howell, John McGerchin, Gil Willis, Paul Roberts, Brian Smith. The CD is Dances with a Difference, Volume 3. All these are available on Colin's website. We are posting a link. And yeah, I probably botched that name. Sorry. We'll see everybody in the after talk in just about 2 minutes after we hear some of this beautiful tune. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. Now I need to find the artist.